All right, let me start my intro over again. I hope that I'm streaming okay. Okay, welcome to Black Talk. I hope that I am streaming okay. I guess we're going to find out after tonight. Um, yes. So, welcome to Black Talk. I am your host, VJR Stewart, and this is the very first episode of Black Talk. I want to give a shout out before I get started. There's another podcast that I do called Black Man Speak on Wednesdays every night, every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Central. If you get a chance, go tune in. I do that show with two other gentlemen, Tommy D. Duncan III and a gentleman by the name of Uncle Sar. And it's a show that I started back in 2018. And over the years, Tommy was the first person I invited on. And then recently, I invited Uncle Sar on. Both are radicals. Both are very liberal. Uncle Sar is a communist socialist type. So this is what I deal with every week, dealing with those two and their nonsense. Sometimes some of the stuff they espouse, such as the government is selling drugs, or our government is behind every assassination and coup that happens in Africa, and I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg as far as the craziness. So anyway, I decided to start a new show, Black Talk, and it's not because I'm a black man. That's not what Black Talk is about. In fact, let me move my software over so to the main screen and make it a little easier for me to manage. So Black Talk is I created Black Talk for one simple reason: that there are just some things that white people can't say. That if you're black, you can get away with it. For example, as a black person, I can say that 77% of black children are living in homes with a single parent, mostly women. But let a white person say that, and you may get canceled. You may find groups coming after you. Um, there are black people who become very offended, even what you say is the truth. Now they get very offended when I say it, also, but they'll tolerate me saying it. They'll kind of give me a little bit of a pass because I have a black card. Excuse me. But if you're a white person, you can't say it. So Black Talk is about me coming on social media and saying the things that others cannot say. So I'm not prohibited in what I can say. I don't exercise any political correctness. I don't care who's angry. This is a conversation, straight talk for grown folks, big people. And if you can't handle it, can't handle the things that I say, my opinions, the truth that I share with you, go to another channel. I remember when I started Black Men Speak, we had a guy named Garth. He used to tune into the show, and he would file complaints with YouTube, uh, file all kind of crazy complaints, saying that we had child pornography on, violating the rules of good conduct, and so we had been taken off by YouTube several times. And of course, I'd reach out to them and ask them, show me what the violation was. And when they couldn't, they put the shows back and made them available again. So finally, I guess Garth gave up, and when he saw that he was not going to shut me up, that he decided, I guess, give up and go practice his cancel culture ways with someone else. So he was wasting his time with me. So if Garth is out there, welcome to Black Talk. And I haven't figured out the schedule yet, so I'm gonna, for this first week, we're gonna go every day. We're gonna hit hard in the paint. We're posting up daily. I have a short. Generally have a 5 to 7 minute video that I publish every day on various topics. Sometimes I will talk about those topics on the show, and sometimes I will go a different direction. And so tonight, we are going to, excuse me, my throat's little water. I don't want someone saying that I'm drinking alcohol on the show. This is actually H2O. So tonight we're going to talk about um, how Democrats make fools of their followers. I mean, absolute fools. I mean, before we get started, I'm actually going to share something with you. I was a big fan of the Bill O'Reilly show when he was on Fox. And everybody, I mean, Bill had a reputation for being a little touchy-feely with some of his staff members, and people that worked for him. As I say, it makes it okay, but everyone kind of knew he was sort of that way. At least that's what I heard. I don't know the guy personally. I did love his show. Great talent. Love the suit. Great ties. Well, one day Bill did a story. There was a study put out by Harvard, I believe. And in this study, Harvard came to a couple of conclusions. That if you graduate high school, go get a job, get married, wait until you're married with a job before you start having children, that you were 93, 94% chance of being middle class. Not upper middle class, you're not living large, but you are middle class. You can still afford, you guys see my German Shepherd in the back. You guys can still afford a nice existence. And he put the challenge out there asking why don't black leaders, because out of child wedlock in the black community is rampant. Back then, it was only like 73, 74%. Now it's 77%. I had a feeling that when Bill did that segment of his show, that was going to be problematic. It wasn't long after that Bill was pretty much fired. He had just renegotiated his contract, big contract. You know, I think that made him, he was already probably the highest paid person on cable television. But I think he became the highest paid TV journalist, period. Cable, streaming, regular television. But that's what the cancel culture would do to you if you get out of your line, get out of your lane. White people are just not allowed to participate in black talk. So that's what I'm here for, because I don't have such a restriction. I mean, that doesn't mean they won't come after me. They will. But if they do, who cares? I don't care. What are they going to take from me? You know, you want to take the clothes off my back? You can have this jacket. Um, I have another dog named Dobby, who's you can't see it, but at the bottom of the jacket, this jacket was hanging up on a chair. She liked to chew on cloth, towels, pot holders. She chewed the bottom of my jacket. So I wear it when I'm streaming because it still fits, and you're only gonna see the top of it anyway. You're not gonna see the bottom. So I don't wear it out in public. But anyway, with that being said, let's get on with our show tonight. Welcome to Black Talk. I'm your host, DJ Stewart, and we're going to talk about the Democrats and how they make fools of their supporters. The reason I bring this to mind because I know you guys have all seen what is going on in Minnesota. First of all, I haven't seen very many black people out there. I know there's some black people who live in St. Paul and Minneapolis, other parts of Minnesota, but it is cold. I think the other night it was 20 below. It was evening time or afternoon. It looked like it was evening time. Maybe it was afternoon, just overcast. The sun wasn't out. People jumping up and down, acting a fool. White folks. One guy had a furry suit on. I don't blame him. It's cold out there. I hope he was keeping warm. But I think he was doing it because he didn't want to be identified. Well, this ICE agent who was leaving to go on a patrol or to arrest someone, the crowd, they're waving their signs, they're hollering at him, they're screaming. He stopped, rolled his window down, and he asked this lady. He said, "What are you protesting? Why are you protesting against me doing my job?" He said, "I'm on my way to deport someone who's been ordered to be deported by the court, deportation order, who is a child rapist. And this is what I'm going to go pick up and deport. Child rape. So this is who you're defending. He said, you should be ashamed of yourself. And he rolled the window back up and drove off. And she didn't say anything. She could have defended herself. But she was pretty much silent at that point. And the question is, exactly what are you people defending? Child rapists, drug dealers, people who've broken our law. Not only did they break the law entering the country, but once they got here, they broke the law. Or they came here legally on a student visa or visitor visa, but then they overstayed their visa. When the time was up, the time was up. You're supposed to go back home at that point. Many people come on a visitor visa, go to Disneyland, decide they want to stay. Okay, but if you get caught, I don't care if you settle down, got a family now, got kids, thinking that somehow that's going to immune you from being deported is not. Well, it was under Joe Biden, but under the orange man, Donald Trump, he's not tolerating. And so we have to do the right thing. We have to execute our laws. If you don't like the law, it's a simple solution. Protesting and going out there acting a fool at 20 degrees below zero temperatures is not the way to do it. Minnesota, California, New York, New Jersey, other liberal states, Illinois, Michigan. You guys have congressional representation. You have 2 senators. Lobby your representatives. Tell them you want to change the law. Laws are changed all the time. Sometimes we create new laws which reverse the old law, or we write new laws and change the rules to a law. Sometimes the courts overturn a law. They say it's unconstitutional. But if the law is on the books and it's a good law, until it's overturned or revoked or a new law replaces it, as long as it's good law, then we have to execute it. We have to execute the law. We have to enforce the law. So all of our law enforcement agencies and agents out there, law enforcement personnel, need to do their job, and we need to let them do their job. If we don't like how they do their job, simple solution: change the law. You want to have open borders? Okay, I mean that's your stand. Or if a person comes here and overstay their welcome, overstay their visa, but then they get a job, they find someone, they settle down, they have children, that qualifies them for some kind of de facto citizenship. Okay, then fine. Just codify that into law. Change the law. Make that happen. Protesting, getting run over, being shot by rubber bullets, being arrested. In the case of Miss Good, who tried to drive off with an agent trying to open her door, almost run over another agent who shot and killed her, because she was just stupid, just outright stupid. And so here we get to the meat and potatoes of tonight's show. Because I'm getting ready to say something, warning you. For all you, excuse me, for all you people who have very sensitive ears, I'm getting ready to warn you. I'm getting ready to say something that is, I don't even know how to put it. There's really no words for it. Shocking, maybe, although it shouldn't be. People use the word all the time. Black folks do mostly. And that is, but I'm not using it as in reference to black people. I'm using the word in reference to Democrats. All Democrats. So as you guys know, we have something in America we call the N-word, sacred. You know, Jews have the name of their God. They don't really say out in public. They whisper to each other, I believe. I mean, they keep it secret for the most part. But even they don't do they don't have a sacred H word. But we have a sacred word that's so sacred, so holy, so hallowed. You you can't speak it. Well, you can't speak it if you're white. There are a lot of black people who use it all the time. Very affectionate. So I'm going to use it. Yeah, if it's okay for black people to use it, I'm a black person, i.e., it should be okay for me to use it. Logical to me. So I'm going to use it. But not in reference to any particular person or color or people. No, this is for the entire political party, that DNC, the Democrat National Committee. We'll call it Democrats. If you're a member of the Democrat Party, white, black, red, brown, yellow, it doesn't matter to me, then you, my friend, are a nigger. Oh, JR, you said the N word on social media. Yeah, I did. Yes, I said the N word. You are a political nigger. That's the way I look at you. And why do I call you a political nigger if you're a Democrat? Because political niggers do not have the good common sense that God gave, blessed them with, to vote their interests. And you have all kinds. You have the elites, niggers, political niggers, who are Democrats. We call them elites. Well, white folks call them elites. Or Washington, the Rust Belt folks, the folks up and down I-95, up and down the East Coast. And then you have the poor white trash niggers, Democrats, liberals. They're all white liberal, socialist progressive, communist, Marxist, Democrats. That's what they all have in common. The one thing they have in common is not color. Oh, yeah, you have white niggers, you have black niggers, Hispanic, Asians, male, female, rich, poor. That Democratic Party, they don't discriminate when it comes to niggers, but they have a bunch of them. They don't vote their interests. That's who they are. And so, well, Jay, how do you know this? Because I watch these people. I've been watching them since I was the age of 15 or 16. When I was in high school, I didn't know anything about politics. But here's what I did know: is that when I was growing up as a kid, grown people would get really quiet when kids came around. They'd be talking about things, and all of a sudden they would go quiet. And when you came around, and then somebody would say, "Unless you want to go take a nap, or be confined to your room, you need to go find yourself some business. You need to go outside and play. You're not allowed to be hanging around here when grown folks are talking." So I was always curious, exactly, what are these grown people talking about? Well, sometimes they were talking about politics or relationships. So I decided I wanted to learn a little bit more about politics. And my uncle, he had one of those great big satellites at his house. One, not the small ones like we have now, like Dish and whoever else is out there in the dish business. No, he had one of those great big ones. With the motor on it, you could program to point to different satellites. And I was a Laker fan back then, so he would tune it in to point to the satellites that fed California. So on Saturdays, I would go to his house and I would watch public access, well, not public access, like PBS, public broadcast. And sometimes they would have Ronald Reagan on the show. Ronald Reagan was, they call him the great communicator. And really his secret was he spoke to people on an eighth grade level. It's not me saying that, he said that. He was plain and clear, but Ronald Reagan was one of the first people to explain what a liberal and a conservative was, Republican and Democrat, what each party stood for. I started tuning in. If he wasn't on as a guest, I would just tune something else, trying to catch a Lakers game later on. And so that's how I got introduced into politics. But since then, I became more interested in learning more about politics and the political structure. And the reason I say that Democrats are just outright niggers who don't vote their interests, because it's true. I watched it. Like, for example, The Orange Man, President Trump, he has a lot of people behind him. Used to be Democrats, MAGA folks, Tea Party, conservative. Some Republicans were not so conservative, still kind of support him most of the time, out of party loyalty sometimes. He's brought gas prices down. He did exactly what he said he was going to do. He's brought inflation down. Prices are still going up, but they're just not going up as much. Some food items prices have come down. Beef is still high. I know because I'm a carnivore, which means I eat a carnivore diet for health reasons. So I know how much meat costs, especially beef. But Trump pretty much has delivered on most of his promises. And the things he haven't delivered on, like ending the Russian-Ukraine war, he's still trying. He hasn't given up. He didn't promise you to fix the sky falling and then get in office and then turn his back on you. No, he works every day to carry out the things that he promised you. He works hard on it, looking out for the country. You may not agree with him all the time. I don't agree with him all the time. Nobody agrees with anyone all of the time. In fact, I even hate it when people say that, and I just said it. I'm tapping myself on the wrist for saying it. But it's true. No one agrees with anyone all of the time. So we shouldn't even have to say that because it should be assumed. But there are things that Trump does and is doing that I don't agree with. Like, for instance, Greenland. You know, I think if Denmark is willing to let us set up bases there, let us set up mining companies and develop the island, well, we should take that. We don't necessarily have to own it or control it to do these things. So Trump, take what they're offering. If really your goal is to keep the Chinese and the Russian out, then fine. They said you can put up all the bases you want. We had 17 bases there at one time. Now we only have one. Go reopen those 17 bases. Put an Air Force. I think we have the Air Force there. No, not the Air Force. The Space Force. They're the only branch is still there. Go reopen those bases, and you can, now you have a military presence there. You put missile defense in with the shield. Put whatever you want. Denmark said, "Hey, we're open to all of that. You can do what you want. We're not going to give it to you. We're not going to sell it to you. That's off the table." And the people there don't necessarily want to be Americans either. Okay, fine. So we'll take the next best deal. We'll occupy you. We'll protect you from those bad Chinese and Russians. Everybody's safe now. But yeah, you're going to have people who are, and I hope the president don't do it because if he does, I promise you that there will be some Republicans who will even vote to impeach him if he does. Try to use military force to take Iceland. So, Mr. Trump, if you're watching this show or any of your people are watching this show, don't do it. But anyway, let's get back to those Democrats. Let's go back to the history of the Democrat Party. Let's talk about who they are. The Democrat Party is the party of slavery. They are the party of the Confederate. They're the party that was so entrenched in slavery, not want to give it up, that they tried to split away, separate, secession from America. They did. We had to fight a civil war to reunite our country because of Democrats, Confederates, trying to hold on to slavery. After slavery, after the Civil War is over and slavery is over, they funded and founded, listen to these words now, they funded, put up the money, and they founded the KKK. One of their first leaders, the Grand Poobah, Grand Master, whatever his title, I think this guy was named Nathan Buford, maybe was his name, maybe Nathaniel Buford. I don't know. I know in Tennessee or one of those southern states, there's a park named after him. I know people were protesting it for a while. But even he, once they figured out what they were about and what they were doing, he didn't want to have anything to do with them. I think he may have been the shortest lived Grand Poobah of the Ku Klux Klan ever. He went to their convention, figured out what this was about, and maybe resigned or quit shortly thereafter. Washed his hands of it. Robert E. Lee, commanding general for the Confederate Army. After the war was over, what does he do? He spends the rest of his life trying to reunite the country, to ease race relations in the South. It's like, hey, we went to war, we stood up for what we believed in. The war's over, we lost. Now it's time to get back to just being Americans, all of us. Slavery is over with now, so we got to live with it. There's a new peace, there's a new reality, and it's time to get with that new reality. And of course, that Southern Democrat wasn't trying to hear it. So all of your Jim Crow laws, the Black Code, the pig laws, all passed by Democrats. All passed by Democrats. The KKK, supported by Democrats. The Anti-KKK Act of 1870, 71, 72. These were laws passed by Congress, signed into law by President Grant, because the Klan were killing people. If you didn't vote Democrat, or you tried to vote at all, man, they come and hang you and lynch you. They had one incident where they killed over 200 black people for daring to vote, exercising their right to vote. Congress sent down investigators. This is when the investigators came back. This is what they report. It's part of the congressional records. I'm not making this up. For anybody, you can go look this up yourself. It is part of our congressional record. Here's what they found. Congressional investigators. That the KKK is the military wing, military arm of the Democrat Party. This is what they use to intimidate people, forcing them to vote Democrat or not voting at all, not getting involved in politics. We continue to move forward. And when I make this argument to people, share this information with them, what do they say? Oh, Jerry, in the 60s, the party switched position. All the racist Democrats became Republicans. All those good, kind-hearted Republicans became Democrats. Which is a lie. Nobody switched parties. Well, yeah, some people switched parties. So yeah, some Democrats became Republicans. But there were no good-hearted Republicans that became Democrats. It didn't happen. It was a lie. Since then, Democrats control your school districts. In the black inner city school district, they've run them into the ground. It wasn't always that way. Go read up on the first black high schools. It was the Dunbar High School, 4 of them. Washington, D.C., Lexington, Kentucky, Baltimore, and Fort Worth, Texas. And these schools were excellent. They taught advanced math, a foreign language. In fact, if you graduated from Dunbar back in the 20s, if you went off to college, what most of the graduates did, the elite universities up and down the East Coast would give you 2 years of college credit. Most of the kids graduated in less than 4 years because they was just that smart. Dunbar in D.C. was the best in the tri-state area, or the two-state area in the District of D.C. So I'm going to say tri-state. But they were recognized as being the second best school, public or private, in Maryland and Virginia. And in fact, when once folks figured out how smart the kids were that were graduating from Dunbar, they sent the investigators in to figure out what was going on. They figured, these kids got to be cheating. There's something wrong with here. These are the grandchildren of former slaves. Most of these kids didn't go to elementary school, didn't go to junior high. They went to something called M17 prep school to get into the high school. And you say, well, Gerald, these were the elite of these. No, it wasn't elite. It was a public school open to black kids. If you were black and you lived in the D.C. area, you want to send your child to school, give them an education, you send them to Dunbar. Unless you had the money to put them in a private school. So it was not just for the elite, it was for all black kids. And they were kicking ass and taking names. Once people figured out just how smart these kids were, with their hand-me-down books, hand-me-down facilities, oh yeah, separate but equal was definitely the rule of the law of the land at that point. There was nothing equal about the quality of the bills or the books or the materials used to teach these kids. But it didn't matter. They had teachers who believed in them, who were no nonsense, who didn't make excuses for them, and made them perform at a high level. Period. We're not going to expect anything less. Once the white, liberal, socialist, progressive, communist, Marxist, Democrat figured this out, see, back in the 1800s, they would have just came in and burnt the school down. Lynched the teachers, ran everybody off. But in the 1920s, can't just burn schools down like that anymore. Especially not in the city of D.C., in Baltimore, Fort Worth. You just can't send a Klan in there to just burn things down anymore. Those days are over with. So they had to take over the school from the inside. You look across the landscape. There's not a black or poor white school district in America that's run by Republicans. They're all run by white liberal, socialist progressive, communist, Marxist, Democrats. And they have run them into the ground. And you say, well, JR, why do they do this? They do this because they don't want you educated. They never wanted you to be educated. The slave masters, when slavery was legal, didn't want their slaves to know how to read or write, wanted to keep them ignorant. The only book, if they could read, the only book they were allowed to read was the Bible. Especially the passage of given to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. They love those passages. Keep the niggers in line, keep their slaves in line. And then what do black folks do once they're free? Well, a lot of them started Republican parties down south. Like I live here in Texas. And the Republican Party of Texas, most of their founding members were black. And not just here in Texas, but in most states in the South. But that was short-lived. Because once Reconstruction kind of ended, once the troops the troops couldn't stay here forever. The South couldn't stay occupied forever. At some point, troops were going to have to leave. And Democrats would take over. Once they did, they began to act a fool again. Up to the same antics, passing Jim Crow laws, Black Code, the pig laws, putting black folks in their place. Don't want to see them educated. Didn't want to see them get ahead. Nothing's changed. Nothing has changed. The Daughters of the Confederate. And I'm going to tell you, I understand why white folks do this. Why that white elite liberal, why they do this. That white liberal, who on the Republican side, they call them the elites. Because they think they're smarter than everyone. But let me say this, for the record. You can take the smartest white liberal, socialist, progressive, communist, Marxist, Democrat, and I'll put them up against the dumbest member of the Tea Party, MAGA, white conservative, it doesn't matter. And the Republican will kick their butts in the debate. Why? Because we have truth on our side. The elite, the white liberal, socialist, progressive, communist, Marxist, Democrat, wealthy elites, wealthy Democrats, they absolutely need, this is insipid behavior on their part. They actually need people to be superior to. These are the biggest white supremacists. I hear black folks talking about, well, he's racist, he's a white supremacist. You just don't know what a white supremacist is. When you go into that booth and you vote for a Democrat, that's your white supremacist. Those are the people who purposely keep you in ghettos and poor areas. Purposely keep economic development from coming your way. They don't fix the streets, the roads. They won't repair the schools. There's always problems. They don't fix any of them. You want a good education for your child, guess where you have to go? To the area that's run by Republicans. school district run by Republicans. We live in a decent neighborhood, low crime, good infrastructure. Once again, a county or a city is run by Republicans. But that asinine, stupid Democrat who don't vote their interests, that Democrat nigger, political nigger, white, black, keeps voting for who? Who the poor whites vote for generally? Democrats. Who do most black folks vote for? Even though it came down a little bit, I think it was what 81% of black folks voted for a Democrat this last election. Only 20%, 19% voted for Trump. I mean, that's a start. That's huge. Considering Republicans generally only got about 5-6% of the black vote. So Trump made some inroads. But still, you're talking about the majority of black folks. Democrat, political niggers. Do they vote their interests? No. They vote for the very party of the KKK, party of the South, party of Jim Crow, the party that keeps you poor, keeps you in ghettos, keeps you aggravated, keep the police on your ass, keep you ignorant, stupid, just so they can wake up and feel good. Pop their collars. And you know what the elite tell their kids? That you have a duty, you have an obligation to go out there and fight for those poor black people. Keep the Republicans, keep the orange man from taking advantage of them. Because he may do something like try to educate them. He may try to bring them up. We can't have that. I never forget when President Obama was elected. There were two things he did when he got elected. One, him and his wife, I say that loosely, but out of respect, him and his wife went out and found a private school to put their kids in. Plenty of public schools in D.C., black schools where black kids go, plenty of them. Could send your child to. Oh, gee, are you stupid? Can't send my kids to those ghetto schools, those predator schools. Not my girls. Too good for that. And then the second thing you did, there was something called a DC voucher program. You have a phone or a computer, you have internet, you have Google, Bing. You could ask AI, ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot. Go ask someone just do a search on the DC voucher program. The DC voucher program was a program for inner city kids, mostly black, where the government was giving them a voucher for $10,000 where they can go to private school. Now, to my understanding, that all the private schools in the area who took vouchers would accept that $10,000 payment in full for the year, even though tuition was about $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year. But if you're a poor kid and you have one of those vouchers, they would accept the voucher. And other parents, organizations would donate money to help you buy uniforms, to pay for school fees, other things that the voucher didn't cover. So your child wouldn't feel left out. Good program. But for that white liberal, socialist, progressive, communist, Democrat, and their political niggers who follow them, no. GR can't have kids escaping the plantation, getting a good education. They may mess around here and make some friends in high places. We don't mind them getting a poor education in inner city schools. We don't mind that. Well, yeah, we're not trying to educate these kids. And too many opportunities to afford it to you when you go to a good school and have a good education. So what did the community educator do? Now, I would like to think, since he's labeled the first black president, although he's not black, he's mixed. His father was mostly African, some white. His mother was all white. Do the math. He's more white than black. So he's biracial. He's mixed. So he is the first mixed president that we have, at least to that proportion, 49-51. We probably had some other presidents who had a little black in them, but 51% black, 49% black. 51% white, 49% black. We haven't had one quite of that ratio. I like to think that the community agitator tried to fight when they came to him and said, listen, boss, you have to kill that DC voucher program. A program that was only costing the government $10 million a year. $10 million. I'm not saying $10 million is not a lot of money, but to the federal government with a $4 trillion budget, $10 million is nothing. $10 million is one round trip on Air Force One. He could have canceled one trip a year and paid for that whole program. But him, the education secretary, treasury secretary, they came out and made an announcement that he was not going to cancel the program. But he wasn't going to let any new students enter into the pipeline. So in a couple of years, when these kids all graduate, the program will be dead. And then that's what happened. And you have silly people who voted for Obama. Obama. Hope it changed. Obama. You know, Obama cared more about being an ideologue, cared more about his party than he did for the people who voted him in office. He didn't give a damn about black people. He didn't give a damn about poor white people. You political niggers don't give a damn about any of y'all. Whatever I can do to keep you poor, keep you uneducated, keep you stupid, and keep you blaming Republicans for everything, that's what I'm going to do. That's what the political niggers do. They don't vote their interests. They're just outright stupid. And so you have to be outright stupid to be a member of that party, unless you're part of the elite. Now, the elite understand this. But I understand the elite of that party. I know why they do it. They have this insipid need to be superior to someone. They can't be superior to me. That's not going to work. There's no way. Candace Owens, Officer Tatum, Larry Elder, Ben Carson, any black conservative out there, any conservative, period. They don't have to be black. White, black, red, brown. Find me the dumbest conservative in America. The absolute dumbest. And they can't even be superior to that person. Find me the dumbest MAGA person out there in the land. Person who can't chew and walk, can't chew bubble gum and walk at the same time. But even that person, they cannot make that person feel inferior to them. So they need people. They need an inferior class. And when they can't find them, they make them. That's where poor white people come in, and that's where black folks come in. They make sure you're brainwashed so you don't vote your interests. This is why on Black Talk, don't give me the straight scoop. I'm not holding it back. If you're offended by the words I'm saying, I would suggest you pull your britches up, put on your big boy underwear, or go someplace else and cry. Go find a safe space. This is not it. There's no Play-Doh here. There's no reason for us to separate into two different groups. We're all Americans here. And I really don't care about the complaints. I know the complaints are going to come. I'm prepared. I've done this with YouTube before. I know if they kick me off the air, I know how to get my show back on. Because I'm violating the community rules. And certainly me using the sacred N-word, I've already specified that this show is not for children. Not for children. There's no porn on here. There's no child pornography. In case Garth is watching or will watch. So none of that's going on. Just me being straight with you. The political party that we call the Democrat Party is a party of the devil. It's a Satan party. Everywhere they go, they're just unhappy people. They're just not happy until even when they're spreading their misery around. They want to control everybody's lives. They want to be, in the middle of everything. They want to tell you how much water you can use in your toilet. We can't even have incandescent light bulbs anymore. And I don't mind the compact fluorescent bulbs. I mean, they're good. They low energy, but they're not as luminous as the condensing ones. We use some digital bulbs around here also. I mean, they're good. Don't get me wrong. Especially in my studio that I had upstairs. I don't use it anymore. I stream directly. But yeah, these bulbs are not even allowed anymore. They want to tell you, how much water you can use to wash your clothes, to go into a dishwasher. They want to regulate everything. Now the latest craziness. They want boys in the girls' bathroom. They want boys in girls' sports. They want men in the women's bathroom. I have a daughter. I've adopted my niece. She's my adopted daughter. I don't want them growing up in a world where if they're going to the bathroom, some depraved, mentally ill man walks in the bathroom, someone I identify as a woman, whips his penis out, and goes to the bathroom in front of him, or trying to shower in front of him. I don't want that for my daughters. Nor that I want my daughters or anybody else's daughters to be playing on a court or a field, and some guy who can't compete against fellow males decide all of a sudden I can identify as a woman and be great. How in the world, the swimmer, I'm not even going to mention his name because I don't want to give him any additional press. He's ranked, 270, 280 in men's collegiate swimming? He's probably ranked 280, 279, 280 out of 281 swimmers in Division One. He was an absolute loser. But when he identifies as a woman, boy, he jumped right to the top, ranked number one. He beat women so bad, he can go get a cup of coffee after he comes in, and they still haven't finished. Do I want this nonsense for my daughters or anybody else's daughters? No. But this is the foolishness of Democrats. Now they were for defunding the police. Listen, I live in one of the safest cities in Texas, maybe in America, called McKinney, Texas. Well-run city. We have a few Democrats on our city council, but it's fairly conservative. We're the seat of Collin County, most conservative county in Texas, maybe even in America. And I know Democrats have been pouring money into each election, millions, trying to flip Collin County. And with that being said, I'm still happy. We have good quality of life here. But our Democrats are not that crazy. They're not that stupid. I mean, we have some. Don't get me wrong, a liberal sprinkling of them. But even the folks who identify as Democrats here have a little conservative streak in them. They'll at least do the right thing in the end. We don't have these fallouts. We don't have our Democrats running around talking about defund the police. We don't have Democrats here in our city getting in front of ICE, keeping them from doing their job, or Border Patrol, CBS. We don't have that nonsense going on. We don't have people standing out in 20-degree below zero temperatures trying to block ICE agents from arresting a child molester. We mourn for the little girl down in Houston who was raped by 3 illegals and killed. Her parents have to live with that every day of their lives. Or for any of the other kids who've been killed by illegals. Adults who've been run over in cars because some of them can't drive, they can't read the signs. I'm perfectly okay with our government doing what it has to do to enforce our laws. And like I said, I don't care what the law is. If it's an unjust law, change the law. It shouldn't be that difficult to change unjust laws. We're all just people. If you don't believe me, put it to the test. If you think what ICE is doing is unjust by deporting criminals, oh, Gerald, they're not all criminals. Sometimes they're deporting American citizens and people who are illegal. They're not deporting any American citizens. That's nonsense. And just because you came here legally and overstayed your welcome, your visa has expired, your student visa has expired, your work permit has expired, doesn't mean that you're immune from being deported. I don't want to hear these liars get on talking about they support the Constitution, they support families. Our Constitution is the bedrock of our legal system. The laws that we pass are based on that Constitution. If we deem them to be contrary to our Constitution, we revoke them, invalidate them. The courts would say this law is unconstitutional, and here's the reason why. But as long as the law is on the books, then our government has a duty to execute the law as it is. You don't get the right to pick and choose the laws you want to execute. We have something called the fairness doctrine, equal protection under the law. Equal protection means that everybody, law applies to everybody equally. When you start picking and choosing which laws you're going to enforce, decide who gets off and who's not going to be charged with something because they're a friend, family member, or for political reasons, that's not equal protection. That's favoritism. Lying Democrats. This is what they do to you. They corrupted our party. They corrupted their party. They corrupted our country. They corrupt people, the schools, the minds of folks. These are some of the most unhappy people you ever want to encounter. They always have a complaint. The glass is always half empty with them. And on top of that, I'm going to warn you, so if you have sensitive ears, you can cover them now. So I'm trying to at least give you a warning. These white liberals, socialist, progressive, communist, Marxist, Democrats, and their political niggers are some of the most unattractive people you ever want to meet. Look at the protesters. I don't pay attention to them because I'm trying to find who are the attractive people out there. They're all kind of fat, ugly, chunky. My wife said I pay too much attention to weight, but it's not just weight I pay attention to. These protesters. I've yet to see one woman out there that I would say was a 7 or above. These are not very attractive women. And it's not that they're all, the Bush types. Some of them are. But even the non-Butch ones, non-lesbian ones. But it's just who they are. They're miserable people. And they're not happy unless everybody's miserable. And even when everybody's miserable, they made everybody miserable, and we just decide to wash our hands of them, just give them what they want. That's what good people do. That's how we deal with it. We get tired of protesting. We get tired of fighting against them. We get tired of dealing with them. So what do? Good people just turn their head, look the other way. Just give in. They cave. Because we just want a little peace of quiet. We don't want to be at war all the damn time with the white liberals, socialist, progressive, communist, Marxist, Democrats, and their political niggers. That's not what we want. Sometimes we just want to sit down. Like for me, I enjoy sitting in my front yard, putting bird feed in the feeder, putting water in the fountain, and just watching the birds and the butterflies coming to the yard. We're a family of finches that come and hatch. They have a nest over our front door. We don't even go out the front door to keep from disturbing them. They leave a mound of poop. Every year they come. When they leave, they leave a mound of poop at the front door. We just wash it away. And now we have, I think, 2 nests or 3 nests up there. So maybe their kids, they come back every year. And we feed them, we water them, we wash away their poop, we go through the garage. We don't even disturb them. But I enjoy, and they used to, when we first moved here, I know my time is almost up, so I'm gonna make this quick. When we first moved here, we get out the car and start heading to the house, and you'd have birds, almost like kamikaze pilots. Man, they would just nosedive and come straight at you in the last minute. Just when you put your hands up the block, they would break away. They would do this every time we come home, come from work, going into the house. Now, I guess we're on friendly terms. They've accepted us. We've accepted them. We feed them. We water them. And that's what good people do. We live and let live. We just want a little peace of mind sometimes. But no, the white liberal, socialist, progressive, communist, Marxist, Democrat won't let you have peace of mind. They just want to keep agitating you, keep poking you, protesting, keep acting a fool. And their supporters, their political niggers who support them. I don't care what color you are, white, black, red, brown, yellow. If you're a member of that party, you support them, you give them money, you vote for them, you are a political nigger. Yeah, I said it. I'm not scared of your sacred word. I didn't make you that way. It's your choice. You don't like what I'm saying? Do something about it. Get smarter. Educate yourself. Make better choices. Vote your interests. And there's no way. Leave a comment. If you think the Democrat Party is your interest, keeping people in poverty, keeping people in poor schools, if that's your interest, okay, then be man or woman enough to put it in the chat box. I'll respond to it. I'll even invite you on the show and give you airtime if you want. My time is almost up. I have less than a minute left. So I want to thank those who are watching the show or is going to watch the show. This is our very first one. So it's going to take a little while to build up an audience. On my other channel, personal channel, I have double digit subscribers. I don't put up many videos on there because I put out such a variety of different videos. So I wanted to split off and set up a channel just for this political talk. So, and so this is what Black Talk is all about. Straight talk, grown folks talk, no political correctness here, no sacred words. We call it like we see it. So anyway, with that being said, I want to say thank you a lot for everything, for watching. And I will be back tomorrow, 10 p.m. Central. Thank you so